They're trying to ban teenagers from being able to buy supplements that are in fact natural. And why do you think that is? They're concerned, worried that it might in fact be a gateway drug. Coach Greg, in today's video, creatine is in fact a gateway drug. If you're using creatine, be careful. We're going to listen to Mitchell Hooper's opinion on this, then listen to Coach Greg, and in the end, can we come to a consensus? Should you be worried? Stay tuned to find out.
Myth number 4, creatine is a gateway drug.
And so if you're a teenager, you start taking things like creatine and pre-workouts and Turk Builder, Ecti Builder, fat burners, and so on, the list goes on, and you start taking that at a young age, I do in fact believe that it is in fact a gateway drug. And gateway to what? Well, the next thing I think is going to be on your list is you're probably going to start taking SARMs and or peptides. And why do I believe that? Well, have we not seen the push for young influence to encourage people to use performance-enhancing drugs? Namely SARMs and peptides. We've seen it from a whole host of young influencers. And then after using SARMs and or peptides, then what do you think is going to happen? Perhaps you're going to use steroids. And you go from taking pills, because most people don't start by injecting, they start by taking pills. And so if you're just a teenager, I strongly recommend you do not start by taking Ecti Builder or Turk Builder. You're too young, you don't need these things. This is for when you get older, when you hit a plateau, because you start taking pills and then it kind of makes it simple. You're like, it's just a pill. Then sooner or later, you're like, SARMs is a pill? Peptides, some peptides I can take in a pill form. I could take MK677. And so perhaps someone starts by taking Hungrier Than Last Time in pill form. They're like, I know, I want the next level. I want to get MK677. That is a growth hormone secretagogue. It's a banned drug according to WADA. And so you can't take it or you're not natty. Use your natty card. And so if teenagers start taking creatine or fat burners or pre-workouts and so on, pretty soon they're dry scooping the pre-workouts. They're taking 8 scoops instead of 1 or 2. And what can happen next? Very, very dangerous and definitely not healthy.
Creatine monohydrate, totally fine. Don't overcomplicate it. Creatine itself is the energy source for the first 5 seconds of movement. That's it.
When you're performing work, you're using ATP, and it's certainly longer than 5 seconds. For example, when you're in the 100-meter dash, it's probably more like 7 or 8 or even 9 seconds, let's say. Then after that, obviously, you're losing some of that power. You're not producing as much. And so what happens is ADP combines with creatine to form ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And so by having creatine in the body, you'll be able to go longer and harder than last time. Perhaps you were burned out at 10 reps and now you can get 11, and so it allows you to train harder. Perhaps you're running in the 100 or 200 meter dash, and instead of burning out as quickly towards the end of that run, you can push a little bit further. And so you start by taking creatine, then you're thinking, well, what if I start adding in a pre-workout? What if I added in Turk Builder or Ecti Builder or GO2 Max? And then before you know it, you're thinking, wow, really enjoying the gains. I want the next level. I want to get to the Olympia. You start taking SARMs, steroids, and so on. Or perhaps you start taking PDs to win a World's Strongest Man competition.
This is just absolutely absurd. I remember I was 15, 16 years old. I started buying protein powder and I said, Mom, I think I want creatine. And my mom said, absolutely not.
And so hear me out on this. I don't want to be the one to talk about the elephant in the room, but I don't believe that Mitchell Hooper is 100% natural. And he started taking creatine perhaps as a teenager. He's saying it's not a gateway drug, but he took creatine and eventually, perhaps, maybe, took something that's enhanced. And so if he's trying to use an argument that it's not a gateway drug, wouldn't it be better coming from somebody who never touched any PDs? Somebody who said, I took creatine and never took anything else. Had no temptation to take anything else whatsoever. But coming from someone who started with creatine and then led to taking other things, I feel like that is a good argument for saying that it led to taking performance-enhancing drugs. And so what does the research say? Well, I remember, in fact, reading this article. They're trying to ban teenagers from being able to buy supplements that are, in fact, natural. And why do you think that is? They're concerned, worried that it might, in fact, be a gateway drug. Think of this example. Do you think that steroids is a gateway drug to recreational drugs? Let's say you're injecting certain things into your deltoid. Now that you've been able to prick yourself with a needle, now that you've been able to do that, is it not less of a stretch that you'll be able to inject other things? that you're perhaps not as timid or as shy, and that you perhaps are surrounded by people that are using other substances. And if you're around those people, is it not going to make it easier, more tempting, easier access for you to start doing that same thing? You are like the 5 closest friends that you have. And so if your 5 closest friends are all using and abusing performance enhancing drugs, you're much more likely to become someone that does that. And so I'm not trying to demonize creatine, but I am trying to present the opposite argument that maybe, just maybe, people who use creatine are more likely to be people who use performance enhancing drugs.
99.9 times out of 100, creatine is not just recommended, I believe it's an absolute must for anyone who resistance trains to any extent.
And so here's the opposite side of the argument. Creatine isn't a drug. And so how can it be a gateway drug if it's not in fact a drug? I would have to say that creatine being a gateway drug is a myth because creatine is not a drug. Creatine is a supplement. I believe a fair assessment would be to say that creatine may in fact be a gateway supplement, but creatine is not a drug. I believe that is what Mitchell Hooper is presenting. I think that is the source of his argument. And so perhaps Mitchell Hooper is correct after all. And so my message to all the younger people out there is that I don't want you to buy any supplements. I know it's tempting. I know you want every advantage possible, but you're so young and you have so many newbie gains that you're going to make gains anyway. You don't need any of the supplements, the pre-workouts, the creatine. Now, protein powder, I don't actually consider that a supplement. To me, that's a food. I don't think that you have to stop yourself from eating protein bars or protein powders, because to me, that's food. But supplements, on the other hand, I think you should wait. Even though I know if you're 15, 16, whatever years of age, you technically could take creatine. It's not a drug. I agree with Mitchell Hooper, but I do believe it could be a gateway supplement. You have so many gains on the table, then why not save it for when you reach a plateau? Think of it. If you're going up on the bench press by 5 or 10 pounds every single month, why do you need to add something? You're already doing amazing. Wait until you hit a plateau. Now you're at your peak. You can't get any stronger. Now add something, because once you get older, it's going to be that much more difficult to make improvements. And when you're not making improvements, the gym is way less fun. Trust me. I trained natural for 20 years. 42 shows natural, made slow and steady gains for years. It was very fun. I didn't care if somebody else was putting on 10, 15, 20 pounds of muscle in a year. I'd put on 2, 3, 4 pounds. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. And you stretch out those gains over the course of many years and or decades. And if you do get older and you then want to add these things, then do it then. At least you're a mature adult. You can make responsible decisions. You're being proactive. You studied this. You're making sure you're not breaking any laws. You're doing so with the advice and consent of your doctor. And so at that point, hey, you're a mature adult. You can make your own decisions. And so if you're not a teenager anymore, you're an adult and you're interested in using harder than last time supplements, of course, click the link in the description. Head over to my website. And if you are a teenager, be sure to get your parents' permission first before using supplements. You want them to know what you're doing and when. Make sure that you're making proper decisions. You can explain to your parents, hey, creatine is this, creatine is that. I think I should use protein. Let them decide with you. Interested in creatine? We have it for 50% off. Click the link in the description. One of the most researched supplements in the entire world. If you're interested in more hardcore supplements that creatine that are going to work even better for most people, look no further than GO2 Max, Ecti Builder, and Turk Builder. Now, Turk Builder in particular, very, very potent. Don't take it later in the day. It may in fact affect your sleep. Please watch all the other videos and be careful what you ask for. And remember, we have the lab work to prove it, independent labs showing you exactly what's in the product, so you have 100% confidence in the supplements from Coach Greg. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, watch one of the bloops. Don't forget about the cookbooks, the Circle Diet book, the Harder Than Last Time training books, all this stuff on the website, PDF hard copies. Want this? 15% off, free diet and training program on the website. Also become one of the 300,000 plus newsletter subscribers, coaching plans by me and my team, as well as the phone consults. And until next time, I am out.